Hello, I'm John Long, Director of Education for the National D-Day Memorial, and I'm speaking to you from Bedford's historic Meeting House, a national landmark on Main Street. It was built in 1838 to house a Methodist congregation, but by World War II it was the sanctuary for St. Philip's Episcopal, a prominent African-American church in town. It's a perfect backdrop to discuss the Double V campaign of World War II. Double V was an effort to inspire lasting change within American society through the service of black soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, and Marines in the war effort. In World War II, the U.S. military, just like so much of American society, was racially segregated. Some 1 million black servicemen and women wore their nation's uniform. They fought some of the most racist tyrannies in the world, but they did it in defense of a nation which denied them any sense of racial equality. In Army barracks and aboard Navy ships, African Americans served with honor and distinction, but only in segregated units, while being denied opportunities for advancement or even basic fair play. Their families at home, meanwhile, endured discrimination and segregation in public facilities, schools, and the voting booth. It was a great discrepancy for which no one had easy answers. When the U.S. entered the war after the attack on Pearl Harbor, African Americans immediately expressed full support for the war effort. They were, after all, Americans who loved their country. However, the black community also recognized a great opportunity. In exchange for their necessary service in uniform, wasn't full equality in American society a just reward? As one black factory worker expressed in January 1942, would it be demanding too much to demand full citizenship rights in exchange for the sacrificing of my life? From this came the celebrated Double V campaign, launched February 7, 1942, only 2 months after Pearl Harbor. The Pittsburgh Courier, the nation's largest black newspaper at the time, announced the drive for double victory: victory on the battlefield against the enemies of freedom, and victory at home against the inequities of segregation. America's black citizens were pledged to support the war effort in defense of their nation, but the drive for improvement in civil rights would be equally tireless. Another milestone for wartime equality came in April 1944, when the Army's Yank magazine published a letter from an African-American corporal, Rupert Trimmingham. He told of traveling on Army business through the South and encountering a delay at a Louisiana railroad depot. He and his fellow black soldiers could not eat at the station's diner, but the men could come around back and eat in the kitchen, out of sight. While eating, they saw through the kitchen door a group of men under guard enter the dining room, sit down, receive their food, and eat alongside white patrons. They were German prisoners of war. Trimmingham wrote, "I stood on the outside looking in, and I could not help but ask myself these questions. Are these men sworn enemies of this country? Are we not American soldiers sworn to fight for and die if need be for our country? Why does the government allow such things to go on?" Why indeed, many asked. More and more Americans began to recognize the discrepancies inherent in America's segregation. However, the Double V campaign would not provide instant overnight success. In 1945, when veterans began to come home, they returned to a nation still racially divided. But the Double V effort did lay groundwork for future progress in civil rights. In 1948, President Truman would officially integrate the American military. And in the 50s and 60s, the nation would see its greatest advancements in civil rights in our history, with school desegregation, voting rights legislation, and integration of many public institutions. Much of this progress was due to the dedicated work and support of World War II veterans. Our nation is still striving to live up to the principles embodied in our founding documents. If a perfectly free, completely equal society is our goal, we still have battles to fight. But thanks to American heroes who supported the idea of a Double V in World War II, our nation came closer to the victory we desire.